Hello and welcome to Scottish Car Enthusiasts and Trains TV. And in this episode, we make a return to Practical Classics April to May 2022 edition as part of the COVID Sessions Part 5. It's been a few weeks since we last had a look at Practical Classics, and I have fully recovered from COVID, and we were just finishing up on the buyer's guide to a Citroen AX. So without much further ado, we're now going to kick off into part 5. And we kick off with Banganomics. So this is Craig Cheetham and his Rhonda, which is a cross between a Honda Civic Aerodeck and a Rover 400, and what the Rover 400 Tourer could have been. So it's basically taken an Aerodeck body of the Honda Civic, and what's happened here is that they've grafted on the front end of the Rover 400, I think the HHR 400. Now, I bet this confuses a lot of people because it's basically the Honda Civic Aerodeck or Estate, and it's got a Rover badge on the back rear of it. Are you confused that when you open up the bonnet, it reveals a Honda motor? Not really, no, not for myself, because we all know that there was Honda engines in Rovers of this sort of time frame, or I think they were badged. I can't remember what series they were. I was going to say T series, but I could be totally wrong there. But there was Honda engines in Rovers of this era. For example, you could get like a Rover 216. It didn't have a K series engine in it. It had a Honda engine in it. So the verdict is, here is a car that could have been a common sight on British roads. It's not a one-off, there's at least another two, but you're unlikely to see another coming the other way. And Danny bags a frugal funster, frugal French funster, 58 miles to the gallon, yes please. Bought for £250, it's a 1996 Peugeot 106 1.5 diesel. Bought for £250, it's been standing for years, it needs a bit of welding and servicing before an MOT. It was a sound car, but might now need some deep recommissioning. Modern Classics, the diary of a modern classic addict. This is Keith Adams from AR Online, and we're talking this month about the Citroen XM. The XM took a while to enter the classic world. With a plethora of bells and whistles, plus leather pews, the XM is a very pleasant interior. Keith suspects that the XM will be more agile and comfortable than a brand new C5. And we just move on over here to an advert for Aguri cordless pressure washers. Staff car sagas. So we start off with Danny's new car. So Danny was moving house, so why hire a removal van when you can buy, probably for the same sort of price, a Volvo, basically house on wheels. So this is a 1990 Volvo 240 GL. Also in Danny's fleet is a Riley Pathfinder, Interceptor 2, Morris Marina Coupe, Triumph 2000, Alfa Romeo GTV, and as we mentioned on the previous page, a Peugeot 106 diesel. So Danny swapped this with Steve for an SLK and £100 to fill the Volvo's tank. And it already had issues with the slave cylinder. His foot went to the floor and there's a pool under the slave cylinder. And there's a wee bit more on his 106. And yes, no room for a family dog, but you can get a sofa in the back of an old Volvo. And I think that's what most modern Volvos nowadays miss. You can't really fit a sofa in the back of them nowadays. Classics live forever, so this is an advert for Lucas Parts. And Mr. Walsh has bought an accidental icon, and we shall find out more about that shortly. And we continue with James Walsh's accidental icon. So James was looking to downsize, but bought himself a Citroen DS by mistake. Well played, sir. Well played. So LHM is the lifeblood of any Citroen with hydraulics. So like steering, suspension and brakes. So you find them mostly on like Citroen SMs, Citroen DS's, Citroen BX's and Citroen Xantias. Most modern Citroens nowadays don't run on LHM. It might look like a bit of an oddball car, but these cars are very beautiful looking in the flesh. And also, James has got a Hover Smart, or a 2004 Smart Roadster. So we're now moving on to Matt Tompkins, and he's got a heavy right foot apparently because his diff succumbs to supercharged power. It was only a matter of time, and he scooped these Planet gear teeth from his axle casing. So we're now moving on to Nigel Clark's BMW E46, and he's quietening the BMW's back end. And he's also sorted his clutch on his 1970 TR6. So we're now on JJ Vaughan's Out with the Old. His S124 Resto project is no longer a tripod. now over to raising a glass to our Rebel project. It's heading towards paint without a pause. And this will quite possibly be the best Rebel round around. So this Rebel is going to be restored, and it's going to be sold at an auction to raise money for NHS charities, and Lancaster Insurance are on board. So there's 3 great ways to buy our magazines today. So you can get them delivered, download, subscribe and never miss an issue. And here's an advert for Machine Mart. Another 2-page advert for Machine Mart here. Before asking our experts, so a checklist for your classic. So here's just a few wee pointers for checking a classic. Braking point: if the car locks the wheel easily, the brake cylinders or the rear load regulating valve may have seized. If the handbrake is stuck on, clout the drums with a rubber mallet. Always store in gear with the handbrake off. And belt up: examine the fan belt and timing belt closely. If in doubt, replace to avoid a breakdown. Or worse, date mark the new one. This is basically if you've stored your car over the winter and you're looking just to get back on the road. And failure of the month: this battery cable stuffed behind an exhaust manifold and shrouded in tape and water. It made us look further. Good job that we did. So do it yourself and save some cash. This is how to properly maintain your 6-pot Triumph on your TR5, TR250 and TR6. You'll save roughly £300. So how long will it take? Roughly 5 hours. It'll cost £80 and you'll save £300. So first of all, you want to do an oil change. You want to replace the oil filter. You want to give the coolant a service and clean the air filter. You want to then check and adjust the fan belt. Before working on some valve clearances. You want to then take a look at your distributor and ignition. And you then want to check and replace the spark plugs. You then want to check the ignition timing. before cleaning the breather. And you want to move on, after you've done all that, you then want to move on to the exhaust system. Then moving on to your fuel filter. You want to check your PI system checks. Then 14. Step 14 is you want to adjust your carburetor. Top up your gearbox oil. Final drive oil. And apply a grease gun to each of the drive shafts. Moving down, you then want to go down to your check the tightness of the steering rack. Then before looking at the front trunnions. Then you want to inspect your joints and bushes. Before inspecting your front brakes. Then inspect your rear suspension. Then a rear brake check and adjust the rear brakes. Then want to top up the brake fluid and replacement if needed. You want to do additional tasks at 12,000 miles, adjusting the front hub bearings, renewing the spark plugs, contact breakers and checking all body to chassis mounting bolts for tightness. And by then, step 27, you should have finished. And you just want to check electrical connections, especially battery terminals and fuses. Then lubricate locks and hinges. Finish with a touch of extra TLC by washing and polishing the bodywork. Then check the underbody thoroughly for corrosion. Consider reapplying protective wax. And we're just going to finish off here with this advert for Rimmer Brothers, all the parts you need, and TD Fidget, suppliers of original Triumph spares, and on sale now, Investment Guide 2022 by Classic Cars. So that is this part complete. Join me in a few days' time as we come back for another part as we continue our look at Practical Classics magazine, April to May 2022 edition. Just like to thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe at Scottish Car Enthusiasts and Trains TV.